And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Absolutely. Hello and hello.
Whoa.
This is 100 Watts and a Wire. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel, along with Steve, Whiskey 7 United Delta India. Talking about computers this week. Bit of a carryover. We've got some comments and things we're talking about. A lot of changes precipitated when I spilled 20 ounces of coffee directly into my laptop. Now I have the equivalent of a grown-up sippy cup. Will not spill. I should also show you, though. I have this Yeti. Someone else mentioned the Yeti. This, though, if you turn it over, will leak. So this one feeds this one. Say, and if you look at Steve, you can't see that, but if you join us on the YouTube side, Steve's got one of these ones you take camping, and he took all the coffee this morning, and his wife is in the chat, mad as a hornet. So look at that.
Yep, it's my old Stanley thermos that goes with me every day. It gets thrown around in the truck, and
I've got one, and it's from the 80s. I paid $7.50 for it in a thrift store earlier. No, it's probably last year because that's when we were traveling a little bit. Found it like $7.50, perfect, and it was from. They've changed those thermoses over time a bit. And the older ones, they're like nuclear. They keep it hot.
Yeah.
Perfect. $7.50, best money I've spent. So welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Appreciate you coming by here and supporting not only the show, which you can now find as a podcast. We're 5 years into this, and I think we're creeping up on 300 episodes. But recently, we've taken to turning the cameras on, flip the light switch, let you see inside how we make the donuts. They're so soft and glazed, and
we're kind of like Krispy Kreme around here.
Totally Krispy Kreme. We will never, ever say what I said in an earlier episode about watching us make this. So it's definitely bread. It's Christmas. It's pine. Speaking of Christmas, we got to get into in the next week or so talking about what everybody's interested in, what you're looking for. Everybody seems to get really riled up on the Black Friday deals. I don't know if I look at Black Friday as being a special. I'm always looking for the deals. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of always using my computer again to find out what the deal is, the best deal. And that's one thing about computers that I really love. I don't know how you guys did it before, say, the internet. I know you went down to maybe Radio Shack. My dad did. He'd go to Radio Shack. He'd pick up the little things that he needed. But, if you're not near a big HRO or somewhere else, I mean, how were you was it catalogs?
Well, where I grew up in Pasadena, California, we had, Radio Shack, Lafayette Radio. And then we had this really cool store called Dow Radio. And it was, full-on electronics store, and they sold even some amateur radio equipment. And that's where we went. C&H Surplus was another place to get old, used surplus equipment. So, I mean, it was no different than in New York where they had Radio Row or, that. And then the same thing in Chicago and the big cities. They had places where electronic stores were pretty prevalent, and that was it. And Radio Shacks were everywhere, and so it was different. We didn't know any better back then, and now the whole landscape has changed in the last 30 years.
And Ben reminds me, Hamfest. So yeah, you get your Hamfest. That's probably a big one. That's kind of what we're missing right now. Hopefully the companies are. I kind of go for different things, but I do pick up the smalls. I like my connectors, and I like things that I can kind of carry around in my pocket with me. I fall in love too easily. So it's like that boat anchor, the radio that won the war. Oh, yeah. How am I going to wheel that around?
Yeah, you go down there, you can pick up the part, or you can feel it and touch it and kind of look at different things and peruse the aisles here and there. And it was a total different time, and so it could be better, it could be worse. I miss those. I miss those days.
I kind of like those simpler times too.
Mm-hmm.
I lean on the technology. I think it's a great time to be alive and to have the technology at our disposal, to use it to our advantage when we need to. But I also really think there's something romantic about the old tube radios and transmitting. But I'm an old radio guy, so it's kind of. I also think it's cool that they listen to radio dramas and the family sat in a room around a big stand-up radio. That to me is, is something I kind of wish we still had. I mean, you can, but there was a time when that's all you had, and that's what you did.
And then the old radios, the smells, as the tubes were warming up and the dust was kind of burnt. If it hasn't been run for a little bit, and there was some dust on the tubes, and as the dust burned off, and then as things warmed up, there was just this smell that kind of came around, and it was and the rich tones of the radios, and as everything warmed up, the audio got louder and louder and louder, and it just it was kind of some cool stuff back in the day.
I kind of feel that there's a part of me that I never had a tube HF radio. And there's part of me that it's kind of how you're brought into this, like tubes can be expensive. They don't have to be, but they can be. And I remember Bob, K9EID, telling me, because I was like, what do you think about the Collins? Right? What do you think about the Collins line? Love them, military. He's giving me the skinny. He's like, but you need to be kind of handy with them. And I'm like, oh, because I spent the whole lifetime behind the microphone. And so the Collins gear was something that to me was beautiful, but it was a little like, what if? Yeah. And when the Drake TR7 came up, that's my girl over here, solid state still, but an old radio. And he and other people were like, yeah, if that's a clean radio and it's a working radio, do it, because you don't have to crack into it as much. May not at all. But I think now I'm getting to the point where I feel like an old tube radio should be in my life. There should be some tubes in my life. And I just saw a comment from your wife talking about, I guess it's her dad's radio that you've got.
Yeah, the S line. The S line. Yeah, and then I have my KWM2 on top of it. So, yeah. So
I'm a victim. Go ahead.
That line was bought in '63, and it's been in the family ever since. It's my father-in-law's, but it's a beautiful set.
This could be another one of those mental hurdles for me, because I've got several things that are in my mind that I'm trying to deprogram myself. And part of it is because I ran with hams that had been around the game for 45, 50 years, who already had been through a lot of the trial and error of, and it was sort of like, just take this and get it and, and do it this way. And I was like, I'm kind of a victim of getting in early, not being handy enough to fix a tube radio, not having enough connections to take it, and being worried that if it's pulled out of line because it's out of service, I'm off. I'm out of the deal. And I went a different path. So now I think it's kind of natural that I'm feeling like, I kind of want a tube radio. I'm talking myself. This is not the self-help group I need. They're like, yeah, get yourself one. Here's one. I got one. Buy it over here. Call me. My instant messages are going off. Yeah, you want a tube? Get a tube. Get a tube radio. Just tell your wife you bought a new one, whatever. But you think that that's a natural thing, Steve?
Yeah.
As my psychologist?
Is you're kind of going back into the history and the, what it was like back in the day. And, the tube radios are nice, but they don't hold a candle compared to these new radios.
True.
And what you got, I mean, it's just, granted, yeah, you got to do all this tweaking and it's hands-on and everything, but there's times you just want to come out and operate. You just want to sit down and turn on the radio and dial a frequency and hit the push to talk, and off you go. And it's the like with the Collins is here. You got it's like if I'm going to operate. All right, let me see. Let's see. If I want to get on the air around 7:30, I better 45 minutes prior to it. I better turn the radios on and let them settle down.
A little drifting.
They drift around. Some radios are known for being drifty, and you work them on the air, and guys they'll just kind of drift up and drift around, and that's just the nature of the beast. And so it just depends.
If I fall in love with something, if I know the person, I'm at the point now where if I'm buying old gear, I kind of need to know who owned it. I'm not the kind of guy, I can't make mistakes buying, I should say. In other words, I need to, I got a family, and it's important that I buy things that are, true. And usually getting them from somebody is your best route. So
with the S line here, it's probably with the speaker, power supply, the receiver, the station control, the transmitter, and the 30L1, it takes up about 7 feet of desk space. When it's all laid out.
Yeah.
It takes up quite a bit of real estate. And it's just and that's another fact. Now you can stack them and all this other stuff, but I kind of like to keep things relatively low. So I don't like looking up when it comes to looking at monitors. I want to kind of keep them at eye level. So need to keep everything kind of on the low side, but that's my style of how I want to lay it out, and what works for me does not necessarily work for you. And so there's a lot goes into that. It takes up a lot of space.
I think it's just maybe romantic to have to run even 100 watts through the tubes to get them warmed up, get an antenna, and just make the contact. I'm guilty of not using the Drake TR7 as often as I would love to, but it's one of those radios where I don't think I can let it go.
Right.
Because it was my first. There's many firsts that you would want to let go.
It's kind of like your first car. You kind of hang on to it till it's like, it's maybe time to let go.
Yeah. We're going to take some questions now, Steve. Are you ready for this? We've got a little bit of time before we take our next break. If you have a question that you would like to ask about anything, you're welcome to put it in the chat. But go ahead.
So as they're putting the questions in there, we want to kind of close it off on the game changer with computers that for me here recently in the shack is the SDR receivers, the remote SDR receivers. So as you can see, right back there, I got a little 4-channel mixer. And one of the game changers for me personally was setting up a laptop, taking the audio out of that, feeding into one channel of the mixer, taking audio out of my radio, feeding into another channel of the mixer. And then I bring up, and I use the Northern Utah SDR receiver, which is available on the internet. You just go SDRutah.org or something like that. Just go look Utah SDR receiver, just Google search that, and you'll come up with that. And I've used that as a diversity receiver. And we can talk about diversity receivers and things like that. But for me, it's been a huge game changer, especially operating through the lull that we had in the solar cycle on 80 and 40 meters. It's been fantastic. And we can go over diversity receivers and things and about that later. But for me, that was probably one of the bigger game changers in my shack versus, having automatic, having logging, rig control, and other things, antenna control. The SDR receiver was the big guy, but that's me.
All right, we have a question here from a friend. His name is Matthew. Matthew asked, is Web SDR the same as Echolink? Pardon my inexperience, please. So this may be a good time to transition into that. You want to hit that one, Steve?
Okay, so I just described Web SDR. So that was at Northern Utah. There's one in Half Moon Bay. There's another one in Washington, D.C. They're scattered throughout the U.S. and the world that are available. Echolink it's a it's a VoIP application. It's a point-to-point application. It was kind of, so back a number of years ago, you had a VoIP application to link repeaters called IRLP, Internet Radio Linking Program, or something like that. And it was you used Linux-based software, and then with an interface card, you tied into repeaters, and you interconnected repeaters. Well, Echolink kind of came across as a Windows version, and you could tie repeaters or link radios. But the other thing it provided was that you can use your audio from the computer. You put a microphone, just like we're doing here with on YouTube or any other, Zoom, Skype, and it was a way of connecting from one amateur to another. And like many things in amateur radio, when something new comes along, comes controversy, and people just lost their minds over, that's not ham radio, you're not using radio. And IRLP was really against doing that, having a interconnect into it. A computer interconnect, you directly interface with your computer and logged in and talked on basically a linked repeater system. The creator of IRLP was dead set against that. Radio had to be involved in it, and I respected that. Echolink came along, and you could then use your computer microphone and speaker and tie into a conference bridge or link up to another repeater site or another user. And I'll be honest with you, I was in that camp. That's not right. That's wrong. Until one day I kind of sat back and went, whoa, wait a minute here. Time out, Steve. Look at it objectively. It's like, what about the guy that has, and when it first came, a guy goes into a hospital. One of us goes into the hospital. We can't bring a radio into the hospital, but you want to talk to your buddies. You can bring a laptop. They give you internet. Hey, awesome. This is perfect. He can stay in contact. Let's take that a little bit farther. What about people in HOAs and or in retirement communities or whatever? There's like, wait a minute here. Why am I being bigoted about, here's another tool for someone that can use it. Yeah, they're not using a radio per se, but who cares? It's at least now they are participating in the hobby. And I had a total, a view of it. So I know we kind of went off on the other side. So that's Echolink. WebSDR is just where you just utilizing your web browser. You log into a receiver and you dial around, and you can listen to everything. But it's just basically a one-way application, where Echolink is a dual. But you need software. You got to download the software, and there's and register, and there's a whole process involved in that. So, long story short, there you go.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's time for us to pause. We'll pump the brakes here a little bit. We'll come back in 1 minute. More questions on the way. You can put them in the chat, and we've got some left over from last week. We'll be right back. If you're an electronics kit builder, you'll find something interesting in the assortment of gadgets available at hamgadgets.com. Ham Gadgets has been around for nearly 20 years, bringing you some of the most popular kits ever. You've seen these projects all over the place. They've even been featured in the American Radio Relay League's Handbook for Radio Communications. Their Morse code keyers are being used every day by thousands of hams around the world. The $35 Pico keyer has everything you need to build a Morse code keyer, including the enclosure. They also have a full line of universal keying adapter kits for transmitters and amplifiers. Order online at their secure website today and get 1 week delivery for U.S. orders. They're on the World Wide Web at hamgadgets.com. That's ham, H-A-M, gadgets.com. Okie dokie, and welcome back to the show. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. Steve is here, W7UDI, and we are taking some of your questions now, and it's always great to hear from you guys. There's so so much that's cool about this this sort of setup. Being able to interact with you guys really makes it fun for us. Here's a question now from our chat. Kevin asked, and can tubes make a higher SWR?
Yes, they're more forgiving than solid state amplifiers. So, right, for many years, I mean, back in the day, guys didn't really know about SWR. They just kind of went, well, if it tunes up and we get out, they'd be tuning into 10-1 or whatever. It's just a wet noodle, basically. But tubes are a lot more forgiving when it comes to handling, an unmet or an unbalanced load and or a bad match. And so it's solid state came around, and then protection circuits kind of came along after solid state didn't have it in the beginning, and finals were getting blasted, and then finally the manufacturers started putting in protection circuits and started powering it, reducing the drive, which in turn reduced your power output, so that the transistor wasn't getting enough, the reflected power coming back, and to damage it. But tubes are very, very forgiving when it comes to high VSWR.
Couldn't believe it in the early days when I was told, yeah, you could probably take up to about a 10 SWR, but anything more than that, you want to make sure. And I was like, wow, on the old rigs, on the old tube rigs. So that's quite interesting. Hope that answers your question there, Kevin. Yes, tubes can take a higher SWR. Thank you very much for the question. We've got another friend here, Ray. Ray says, it's a question about mobile radios. I'm looking for one I can use as a base radio at home and also in my Forerunner. I have my tech license and studying for my general. I would keep it under $1,000. Well, you know what I'm going to say. Maybe you don't know, but Steve and I have had this conversation in recent times. I can only tell you what I've done and what I like so far. And ICOM is a sponsor of the show, I should say that, but I paid for everything that you see. Everything is paid for. Nothing is given to me. And I also don't do reviews. I haven't done reviews on any of these products, but ICOM is a sponsor. I run as an ICOM guy in that ecosystem. I like the 7100 in my vehicle. So I'm getting HF, VHF, UHF. It's got D-Star if that's something you want to get to. And I think it's under your price point. However, that works for me. I got a mount that works really well. I can run the power supply back behind the back seat. I have a tuner for my antenna back there as well. It keeps everything clean, and it's for me. I've also had a Yaesu, and I forget the numbers. It is 897, 8 something D.
Yeah, there's an 897, the 857D was
857D. That's the one that got away, Steve. I bought that radio. It was this big, and it could do everything. It could do everything. And what did I want? I wanted an amplifier. I wanted an amp. I said, well, if I sell this thing, I could probably get myself an amp. And so I ended up letting that one go, and I missed that one. I think, damn, I should have kept that one because it could do everything. And I see those in trucks. Steve, any advice, any insight on what you think in terms of, he didn't mention HF, UHF, VHF. I imagine a combination. Maybe he wants two radios under $1,000, but surely you have some thoughts.
It comes down, the same thing. You got your tech, and then you're now working for your general. So what do you want to do? That's the first question you want to answer. And do you want to operate, once you get your general, you want to operate HF in your vehicle, then like an 857 or the 7100, some all-in-one radio that you can go back and forth. I don't know. That one is a tough one. It comes down to, because I'm thinking of the taking the radio out and going back and forth, and after a while, I'll tell you, it's going to be a real pain in the butt. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I got to unplug it. And if you have a separation kit, that's even more of a pain in the rear end. And then, so you gotta, what do you want to accomplish? This, I think, the first step. And then, so if you want to operate all modes, all bands, then okay, great. We're going to go, then what kind of real estate do you have in your vehicle? In the house, it's a different, you got plenty of real estate. But in your vehicle is going to be, where are you going to mount this? Because we were talking to Wes, and he takes a 7300, throws it on the dash on his truck, and that's great. I kind of look at it a little bit different. That's the firefighter in me now starts to kick out, and it's like, oh, that thing becomes a projectile when you have to make a hard stop or you get into an accident. And it's like, oh, that's the last thing you want flying around in your vehicle. But that's me. So you gotta start looking at all those aspects, and then you want to go back and forth. So, Ray, figure out what you really want to do. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to, I'm not much of an HF mobile guy. I prefer to operate HF here in the house, but I'm looking at getting into it because there's times it would be really cool, especially one in my work truck, because all the time I spend on the road at times, it'd be nice to, get on 20 meters and have a chit chat. So, but I would prefer to have something permanently mounted in the rig and then have my station here. But I understand you want to go back and forth. Now you said 4Runner. So I think there's a fair amount of room, but you got to look at that. Don't go with a separation kit, because now you got to unconnect this and disconnect and reconnect. And so
it's tricky to try to do both, but
this is a tough one. And
the good part is that he's got a good budget. That's a good budget. And I think trying to figure out what your goals are, the in and out is definitely a consideration, because how you mount that and bracket that in. Now on mine, I've got I'd have to look up the company, but they have it's under my seat. It bolts in, and you can spin it out from underneath. You'd still have to disconnect, get the cable, get the power supply, and move it out. But it's doable. I think everything is doable. The good thing is that with $1,000, I think you're going to find something that suits your needs, which is good.
Now, the other question is, that $1,000 a hard cap? Because then, you got to deal with antennas and everything else.
Accessories, tuners, the coax with that.
Well, most new radios have tuners built into them. So, not all of them, but a good majority of them.
Yeah, but I can't tune my my Tar Heel from my well, you have the tuner. I can push the button on the 7100 to tell my turbo tuner to take care of that. But it's with that coiled wire, you need a little extra love. So, but that's cost. I hope that helps you out there.
But a great question, Ray. But no, keep at it. Kind of really seriously think about what's your end goal. What do you want? And then just look at all the possibilities and think about it. It's like, do I really want to go back and forth? With that $1,000 budget, you might be able to get 2 radios and say, okay, I just want to operate VHF, UHF in the truck or in your 4Runner, and then just have HF at home, and then you can get yourself down the road, like what Christian has in the background, a Gator, and put your HF radio on that, and then you can take it with you. So
and get out of your truck, go back to the tailgate, go over to the table. Good luck. Yep. Keep us posted on what you decide. I'm curious now, but I like the price point, and there's plenty of options. There's plenty of options out there for you. All right, Steve, I think it's time for us to give away this antenna. For 12 weeks, we are giving away an antenna, and you have to be here in the chat. That's why I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also find us in Facebook, on Twitter, but here on YouTube, we're streaming out across platforms here. You have to be in the chat to qualify. If you've put your call signs at any point into the chat, you will be qualified. My children and I will kind of go through tomorrow morning and pick all the call signs out. They go in a big bucket, a trough, if you will. Everyone is assigned a number, and my girls will match it up, and that's how we do it. So if you'd like to, put your call signs now in the chat. Hopefully I didn't miss too many contacts that were put out there in comments, because people were talking about the radios, the different options of radios, and there are different landscapes or ecosystems for radios. Yaesu's a little different than ICOM. Kenwoods are a little different. You kind of have to get into something to figure out what you really like. So look in the comments, look back at this recording to see what other people are suggesting.
705 could be another little
trouble
thing.
Now. Yeah, you start trouble. You broke his budget right off the bat. Jerk.
Just wait a little while. I'll be under K.
Yeah. See, can I fool anybody when I do this?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, no, don't spill it.
Oh, no, Mr. Bill.
No. I wish I would have poured it on my crotch and instead of the computer. Alas, it did not happen that way. Your call signs now in the chat will qualify you to win. And this week, I think we're doing the off-center fed, right? Last week, we did an end-fed antenna. Or what were we doing?
The loop. Wasn't it the loop? I kind of lost track. Sorry.
We're going to give you an antenna, and it's going to work. I don't know. I think maybe we were giving away. We gave away the loop last week, and then I think we were going to give away the end fed this week.
End fed. There you go.
It's the end fed. Maybe next week we'll do an off-center fed. Get back to the dipole. And if you win, I'd love for you to put it up. You could actually record a little video if you want to, send it to us. But more importantly, let us know how it's playing for you. We're really curious to see. So your call
good,
time,
bad, or indifferent. Let us know. Yeah. I mean, if you got challenges or say this is not working out, then maybe we can solve it and go from there. But yeah, let us know. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay. And what happened is that I need to make the announcement. We're going to do that in a little bit. I've got the full list. What happened is that the computer went a little. We are definitely doing the NFED, but because I had a computer issue, I can't make the fancy, sexy graphic. So I can just tell you who's going to win this week. Okay, and the call sign is Kilo Delta 8 Whiskey Echo Yankee. So that's Kilo Delta 8 Whiskey Echo Yankee. And I'll write this down. That's the name we picked. That's number 24 from last week's session.
Nice.
I don't know if Steve, can you punch that in? We can get this fella's name. I'm a little behind because of the computer issues this week. That's Kilo Delta 8 Whiskey Echo Yankee.
I don't know if I can punch it in.
Don't worry. We'll figure it out. Okay. Somebody can figure out who that is, but that's our winner for this week. And if I had my fancy making things, I would have been able to go ahead and put that up there for you as we've done in the past. But audio listeners are like, whatever. It's a Kilo Delta 8 Whiskey Echo Yankee. If you're in the chat, start yelling. They can look it up pretty fast too. We appreciate you guys sending it over in the chat, and we are going to give away the NFED antenna, courtesy of LDG, sponsoring 12 weeks of antenna giveaways. We're excited for that. So thank you for that. Anyone who puts their name in the chat now will be eligible for next week's prize, which I think we'll do the off-center fed. Okay, very good. Kilo Delta 8 Whiskey Echo Yankee. And if that's a clear...
That's Andrew.
Andrew. Okay, cool, Andrew.
Way to go, Andrew. Congratulations. Sorry, Andrew in Ohio? Okay, good. That's wonderful. Thank you all for looking that up. Nice. Next week, we'll have more capacity as the computer things settle in, but I appreciate you guys doing that. And there you go. Good luck to everyone who's going to try to win this week. I appreciate your patience there. We've got some more questions, Steve. If you're ready for that, we can take a shot. This one comes from Facebook. It's from Rex, our friend the farmer, who has loaded up a silo. He has he wants to reuse a connector. Now, I don't know if this is a good piece of advice. I'm going to let you handle this. Rex says, any great ideas to get coax out of an amphenol connector so I can reuse it? So he wants to
desolder or you know what I'm saying? Any ideas for Rex, or should he think of something else?
Oh no, I've reused old Amphenol, just the standard, solder type Amphenol connectors. So usually what I've done is I'll heat up the center pin and just kind of flick it and get the majority of the solder out, or you can just grab the cable from the back and pull it out, or the center conductor. There's you can go Neanderthal on trying to desolder it, or you can but the flick method is one that I've used for a long time. Be careful which way you flick it, because I flicked it onto my hand or something, hot solder, and it's no fun. It's I don't recommend the propane torch like others have done in the past, but it just heat it up, and then I've kind of maybe cut a few inches of the coax at the back of the connector, and then unsolder. Maybe we'll have to do it as a bench segment or something.
Okay. All right.
It's but you just kind of heat it up and just start pulling it out and cleaning it up as best you can.
Good news is it's a yes. Steve gives it a thumbs up.
You can do it. I've done it.
All right. We're getting close to the end here of our show. You guys are very patient with us. Appreciate it. Delbert asked, I've never tried 160, the ARRL contest coming up this weekend. What would you suggest as a quick and dirty antenna? Wind a Mongol coil on a piece of PVC and 50 feet or so of wire sound possible?
Well, the easiest to me is just throw up a dipole, because then but I can say that real easy, but you need a lot of space to do that. Inverted L is another one that you can kind of get away with and go from there. But it's there's a lot of different ways, and get up as much wire as you can. You might have to put in a Mondo coil, and but if you can throw up a dipole, that's the quick and dirty, simple. Granted, it's 254 feet of wire total, and but it doesn't have to be straight. You can kind of make angles and kind of bend it and go around here. If you can get up that much and snake it around here and there, I think that's the easiest and the least amount of trying to tune and go from there. So
let us know.
Inverted L's is a big one. Yeah, let us know. I mean, it's
a lot of wire, but see what you can tune up, man. You may have a tuner that can tune up something. You're going to lose some efficiency, but just try it.
If you do an inverted L, try to get down some ground radials, because it needs that to go against it. An end fed, if you have the long end, if you have the space, get it up as much wire as possible,
right? Especially
for 160.
Yeah, we got time for one more. We'll do one more. One more question here, Steve, from Chris. He's Whiskey 4 November Romeo Golf. How can I make a simple receive-only HF antenna? I have a big backyard, only one tree. I know, quote, a long wire, unquote. But how exactly do I get the connection from the wire to the radio? How long? So he's being told just stick a long wire up there, maybe a random wire. How he's confused on that connection, Steve.
So you can, some radios have you take the wire and you take it right to the, you could take it straight into and put it into the, onto a lug that will accept a long wire. The other question is, what's the receiver you're using? So let's make an assumption it's your standard tri-band or, HF radio. You could take a piece of coax, run it outside and strip it. And then, hold on a second here.
Where did it look at that radio?
Oh, there it goes.
Ooh,
just happen to have this. So you can take your coax, strip it back here, and hook your long wire to the center, and then you have a connector on this end, plugs into the radio. Is one way, and you can go ahead and take this to ground, but you don't need to, as long as you get a wire onto the center pin. You could kind of just bend it over and stick it into the back of the of the
Oh,
connector.
easy now. Oh,
So
I thought we start getting loopy here at the end of the thing with you could just shove it up there and you just
Yep.
get out of my face.
you
Get off my
can jam it
lawn.
in there. There's
Good Lord.
and you can take the wire straight into it. If you're using like an insulated wire, some like 14 gauge standard wire that you got to roll 500 feet from the local hardware store, you can do that. There's a number of ways. A lot will depend on the receiver. So, but if you're worried about, bringing wire into it, it's a receive antenna. So the simplest is just throw out as much as you can and string it out. And
It doesn't even have to be high.
No,
Doesn't have to be high at all.
actually, for if you're looking at low frequencies, low is great because it reduces the noise. That's look up beverage antenna. That's really popular, and a lot of people use that style and receive antennas when they operate 160.
Should we try here? We're getting long here, a couple minutes long. Should we go back and play the K5 Victor Yankee video from last week?
Yes.
We didn't get the oh, see that? Yes.
Let's do it. Get it
Overtime.
done.
He gets paid overtime. So
Yeah, big bucks.
But yeah, last week I tried to I really tried to play this and it didn't come out as I had planned. But let's go back and check Kilo 5 Yankee Victor Yankee and his setup. And if all goes well, we should be able to hear it now. Let's go over here.
Hello, YouTube. K5YVY. Thought I'd make a little video here to go in the chat. Show you the progress that I've done. I always like to show off projects. And started this on a Wednesday. It's now a Sunday when I'm recording this. Use the filthy door. Looks like I'll have to clean that. I realized it was so dirty and until I started video. But let me see, we got some leftovers here. The old desk, other various stuff. Who knows, you can get so much junk in a shack. I'll walk in. And this is the new shack area. I made a built-in desk. I guess some people might call it kind of a floating desk. Got some more tidying up to do with the wires. But, see, these framed it out. These are 2x3s. Save a little money buying 2x4s. A little less material. And I used 4x8 sheet of sanded plywood, and I stained that with a dark stain, and then did 3 coats of spar urethane by Minwax. Nice and shiny coat. I stained in polyurethane the other side of this edge back there, and I got a little hasty and put it in backwards before I even realized it and got it mounted. So, excuse the youngin' playing games back there. We got us a little station set up here now. A lot
Nice.
I love that meter.
Nice desk room.
That's a rotor controller.
Yes, I need that.
Still got to do a little something with the Chev in there. Just little various things, networking. Got to tidy up some more cables later on. I plan on having all those ran real nice. Channel spaced out.
I like that stain. That
Here
stain
we
and
go.
the
Beautiful.
urethane. Yeah.
The Astron 50 amp with the 300 watt 2 meter amp.
Now we're cooking with gas.
And you can't see under there, but top of this, I keep my headphones tucked away so I don't have to put anything in front of the
Look at that pretty
AGL.
radio.
Wood is beautiful.
I know.
There's my rotor
Nice
meter.
upgrade to my working area. I took this little box, cut a window out in it. I'm going to light that up inside so it'd be nice and pretty when I get through wiring it. Right now, this is my 12-volt distribution box. I've got this set up for my ground bar. This will be 6-way positive block. This here is actually made for automotive uses, but it is a wireless 12-volt box, and we can cut lights on and off with a remote. Pretty handy.
Nice.
It runs my outside lights, my inside lights. And got plenty of room. Still got 4 more spaces on it. I can hook up.
Get the pimp lights going.
On the outside.
Solar, yes.
So I went ahead and mounted my solar charge controller.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get ready to hook my batteries up. And run.
God, I hope that controller doesn't tear up HF for him.
And that's
a good point.
Where we're at for now. A work in progress just now, being able to sit down and enjoy it a little bit.
Nice setup.
So to give you a little preview. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
very
I
nice.
love seeing other people's stuff. There's stuff like that. There's shacks. It's beautiful. That's a payback there. I couldn't get the audio to pass last week, so we did it properly this time. I enjoyed that. You're welcome to send us your videos, projects you're working on. You can send it to me at Christian@100wattsandawire.com. It's email, and I'd love to see it. Just a few minutes long is absolutely fine. We can play it back, and we look forward to that. We've done it again, Steve. We fooled them again. We've hit the limit. And when I say limit, I mean 16 ounces in a 12-ounce bladder. You know, when the boys, it's finished, when the boys are like, yeah, that's great. Good question.
We're starting to squirm a little bit.
We appreciate you guys. It's one of my favorite parts of the weekend is kicking things off with you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys being here. Steve, thanks as always. It's so fun to have you, and I would stream all day.
We could go all day if our bladders would let us.
Sadly, our bladders won't give us that. But I hope you enjoyed it. We talked about computers, how we use them. If you want to use them, cool. Not, you don't have to. To each their own. Very much the sentiment here of our program. So take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you again for the meet and greet. If you like, you can come back next Saturday, about 9:00 Central, a little after. We make the connections and say hello to friends, make some new friends as well. So everybody's welcome. What did we miss, Steve? Did we get it all?
I think we got it all. If
Good
we
deal.
missed it, we'll get it next week.
We'll get it next week. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stay healthy. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 73, guys.
7-3, everyone.
To join the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.